शुरू करें उसके बाद तो
our topics for our topics for today are actually continuation of the optics of Ametropia. The learning outcomes revolve around knowing the implications of correcting unilateral aphakia in the presence of a normal fellow eye, methods or formulas for calculation of the intraocular lens power, A-scan, ultrasonography, the basic info about multifocal IOLs, and the refractive state of a myopic eye after the removal of its crystalline lens. We know that the relative spectacle magnification of spectacles is highest, that is, they magnify the image by 1/3. The lesser one is of the contact lenses, they magnify the image by 1/10, while intraocular lenses have the value of 1.0, that is, they do not magnify the image. This leads, if image is magnified in one eye, it leads to anisoconia. Anisoconia is the state in which the retina perceives images of different magnifications due to some retinal pathology or due to anisometropia. We can correct the problem of anisoconia by using isoconic lenses. These are actually lenses which have no refractive power but have magnification power. The front curvature and lens thickness are calculated while the back curvature is adjusted accordingly to remove their refractivity. So we can, their maximum magnification is only 5%. So we may use them in the other eye to balance the anisoconia. The problem with them is that they are expensive and thick and heavy and require special manufacturing. This is the review. The spectacles magnify the most, while contact lens is lesser than that, and the normal size is shown. Correction of aphakia with intraocular lens. The greatest benefit is that the IOL does not magnify the image, so there is no anisoconia. We can achieve emetropia, or if we want to desire some degree of myopia, we may also achieve that. There are many formulas, two main formulas for calculation of the intraocular lens power, and they all revolve around the power of convergence of the convex intraocular lens when it is placed in its normal position, or if it is displaced some this is the power required. Intraocular lens power is equal to required vergence in the plane of the IOL minus effective power of the cornea in the plane of IOL. We know that when light rays reach the crystalline lens, they had already been refracted somewhat by the cornea. So we have to remove the contribution of the cornea to calculate the actual power of the intraocular lens which we will implant. The SRK formula, this is used widely. P is equal to A minus B into axial length minus C into average keratometric reading. The C and B, they are constants. The normal value of B is usually 2.5, while that of C is used as 0.9, and A is also a constant. A varies according to the position of the intraocular lens in the eye. If we do not desire emetropia, if we want to have some refractive state after implanting the IOL, for example, if we want to achieve some myopia, we will use this variation of the formula. D is the multiplication constant for desired refractive error. Its value is above 1.5, 1.25 if the power for emetropia is 14D, or if the power is less than 14D, then its value will be 1. This table is a recall. It will be used again and again in this presentation. The effective power actually means कि for example अगर किसी लेंस की effective power कम हो रही है, इसका ये मतलब है कि उसकी हमें पावर मज़ीद बढ़ानी पड़ेगी emetropia अचीव करने के लिए, और अगर किसी लेंस की effective power बढ़ रही है, इसका मतलब है कि it is more than enough, now we need to decrease the power of the lens to achieve emetropia. So convex lens, in case of convex lens, when it is moved closer to the eye or the retina, the effective power decreases. So we have to increase its power to achieve emetropia, while on moving away from the eye, the effective power increases, and we do not need that much power, so we will decrease it. And this is opposite in case of concave lenses. If we decide to use ACIOL instead of PCIOL, what will happen? This table is used over here. ACIOL is and lies more anteriorly than PCIOL. So it is, since it is a convex lens, its effective power will be increased, and so we need to decrease its power to achieve emetropia. So the light rays will fall exactly on the retina, and usually the ACIOL is weaker than PCIOL by 2 diopters. The SRK2 formula, the original SRK formula had a problem that it was not very much applicable on the eyeballs of very short axial length like 22 mm or below, or for very long axial length like 24.5 mm or above. So this formula is used here. Instead of the A, we used A1, and A1 varies according to the length of the eyeball, so there is addition or subtraction to achieve accuracy. The SRKT formula, for T means theoretical formula. The SRK theoretical formula is used when very high or very low power intraocular lenses are required. Role of keratometry and A scan. In this formula, P is equal to B into AL minus C into K. AL stands for the axial length, and it is calculated via the A scan. The principle of A scan is that, like in case of light, we use the term refractive index. In case of ultrasound waves, we use the term of acoustic density. So the eyeball has different medias of different acoustic densities. We apply the probe to the cornea, and the ultrasound waves are sent in, and as they encounter the media of different acoustic densities, they are reflected and are detected as echoes. uh, the important point is that it is based on time, so the machine detects that at what time it is receiving the echoes, and according to that estimation it may detect that this echo is coming from the uh, lens, that the other one is coming from the retina. Four different media are different acoustic densities are the posterior surface of the cornea, the anterior and posterior surface of the lens, the retina and the sclera. अब सबसे पहली एको जो है वो ये डिटेक्ट हुई है, इसका मतलब अगर ये सबसे पहले डिटेक्ट हुई है तो मोस्ट लाइकली ये लेंस की पोस्टीरियर सरफेस से आ रही है. इसके बाद गैप आ गया, इसका मतलब कि कोई अकूस्टिक डेंसिटी की वेरिएशन नहीं आ रही, सो इट इज़ मोस्ट लाइकली द विट्रियस. एंड नाउ अगेन एट द लेवल ऑफ रेटिना and choroid and sclera we are receiving echoes. A scan can also determine the corneal thickness, and the role of keratometry comes as this. The K stands for average keratometry reading. It is measured by using a keratometer. Keratometer actually determines the refractive power of the central cornea. This is also known as K reading. There are few points which we need to keep in mind regarding this formula. The first one is that the axial length must be measured along the visual axis and not the optical axis. The visual axis is the imaginary line leading starting from the object of focus and ending at the fovea, while the optical axis is actually the distance between the anterior pole and the posterior pole. If we measure the axial length at a line other than the visual axis, we might receive a false reading, and the factor of 2.5 also leads to errors. We must always measure the IOL power using the SRK formulas for both the eyes and not a single eye. The reason is that there are always chances of errors. There are three main conditions in which errors might occur. Number one, if the difference between the axial lengths of both eyeballs is of 0.5 or above, 0.5 mm or above, then we must suspect an error and we need to check both eyes. Secondly, if the previous eye was operated and the desired post-operative refraction was not achieved in the previous eye, then it means that there has been some error and we need to be conscious. And thirdly, if the refractive state of the eye and the axial length of the eyeball, they do not match, they do not explain each other. In case of a posterior staphyloma, the A scan does not measure the axial length accurately because the staphyloma is actually the circumscribed outpouching of the wall of a globe, and it is the posterior staphyloma is a hallmark of pathologic myopia, as you can see over here. So how we will measure the axial length in case of a posterior staphyloma? We will use the B scan. The main difference between the A scan and a B scan is that A scan is one dimensional, B scan is two dimensional. Uh, After IOL implantation, many patients are still not satisfied. The reason is that the other eye might not be emetropic, it might have a cataract or some other pathology. Secondly, if the patient was a lifelong myope, he had no habit of using reading glasses. So now he is emetrope, his far vision will be okay, but now he will need reading glasses, so he usually feels uncomfortable. Multifocal IOLs conventional. Usually we use monofocal conventional IOLs, and the basic principle is that the far vision is achieved with clarity, while we need reading glasses for near vision. But things are different in case of multifocal IOLs. There is a difference between multifocal spectacles and multifocal lenses, or bifocal spectacle or bifocal lenses. In bifocal spectacles, two zones are used and both have two different powers. Sorry, in bifocal spectacles, there are two zones with two different powers. One zone is used at a time. For example, if the patient is seeing far away, he will use the far zone, and only a single image from that zone will be formed on the retina. And if he is reading something, he will use the near zone and the image will be formed. So only one zone is used at a time. While in case of multifocal IOLs, for example, if there is a bifocal IOL, two images are formed simultaneously, and two images are formed simultaneously, and one will fall on the retina while seeing far, and the other will form on the retina when the patient is seeing near, but two images are formed always simultaneously. A problem with the multifocal IOLs is that if there is decentration, then the image is not achieved with clarity. Centration is achieved when the multifocal lens is when the visual axis passes exactly through the multifocal lens. If it is not passing, then it means there is decentration and image will not be formed clearly. So the decentration must be corrected maybe for example via surgical procedures. There are some disadvantages of multifocal lenses. Image may be degraded, glare or blur circle. This is formed, as I have told before, that two images are always formed in a multifocal lens. One is for the far vision and the other is of the near vision, but the retina always perceives one image with clarity. So the other image forms a blur circle which is perceived as a glare or blur circle. Sometimes we might experience monocular diplopia. This is also known as ghost image. There is decreased contrast sensitivity due to multifocal intraocular lenses, and important point is that their low light performance is not very good. So due to all these cases, due to all these factors, in patients with impending macular disease, multifocal intraocular lenses should not be used. These are the various designs of multifocal lenses. This is a split bifocal lens. One part is used for far vision, the other one is used for near vision, and this is the original picture. Then there is a bullet bifocal, which is circular, has circular division. Then there is three zone multifocal design. The central zone was used for the near vision as pupil constricts in case of convergence, while the zone outer to it and the most exterior zone, these are used for far vision. This is a multifocal intraocular lens with several annular zones, and multiple images are formed along its surface. This is a diffractive multifocal intraocular lens. As you can see, the posterior surface has several rings, which are shown as here, while the anterior surface is smooth. The anterior surface is actually used for achieving a distant image, while in the posterior zone there is diffraction phenomenon occurring at each ring, and collectively it forms a image for near view with an effective add power. And these are second generation diffractive intraocular lenses, the Equisoft lens and the rezoom lens. After some studies, the some results were achieved in the case while checking the multifocal lenses. The conclusion was that best corrected visual acuity might be lesser than in case of the monofocal lenses. However, the plus point is that we may not need the near glasses. If the patient has a multifocal lens in one eye and a monofocal lens in the other eye, he might not be able to tolerate the multifocal lens better. So we should use multifocal lenses in both eyes. And sometimes there might be decreased performance at a distant target and a near target, especially in low light. So it should be avoided in the cases of macular disease or cone dystrophy patient. Accommodating IOL, this is an evolving technology. These are actually monofocal lenses. These are linked to the ciliary body, and the efforts are made to mimic the natural accommodation mechanism. What happens is, with the movement and contraction of the ciliary body, the lens moves somewhat anteriorly, and since it is a convex lens and it moves anteriorly, so its effective power will increase, and as a result, emetropia will be achieved. This is better in cases of high power accommodating IOLs, because if they are high power, they are more sensitive to slight variations in their position. If a patient is a myopic and we remove his intraocular lens or the crystalline lens, so sometimes we may have no need to implant intraocular lens, because the emetropia might be achieved since the refractive contribution of the lens is gone. So emetropia is achieved. But the question arises is how much of myopia should be present for this effect to occur. We know that the in situ power of the crystalline lens is plus 15 diopters. So we might think that myopia of minus 15 diopters will help us achieve this effect. But actually, the myopia should be of minus 18 to minus 20 diopters. How this value is calculated? We know that myopia is calculated via refraction. The amount of myopia is calculated via the refraction, or you can say putting spectacles. So this was done, and we noticed that by putting the spectacles of minus 18 or minus 20 diopters, we had achieved emetropia without the need of intraocular lenses. The basic mechanism of this is again that table. Since for myopia we need concave lenses, and concave lenses have moved away from the eye, so their effective power has decreased, which means that we have to raise their power. So instead of minus 15, we have to raise their power to minus 18 or minus 20 diopters, and hence in this way we will achieve the emetropia. These are the references.
Okay, so most extensive problem of unilateral aphakia is increase in the size of the image. So, so this is most problematic in young children, because at that age
there is possibility of developing amblyopia. See, in the grown-ups, there is no problem of magnification. There are problems, but these are not very serious. In children, especially in unilateral aphakia, the patient will have amblyopia which cannot be corrected later in the life. So we want to correct the refractive state. What is emetropia? It is the normal refraction of the eye when the light from a distant object falls on the retina. And if it does not fall on the retina, this is called ametropia. So now the different refractive states which influence what should be the power of intraocular lens. For example, in silicone oil eyes, the refraction would change. So we have to cater for that. So the most important factor in determining the intraocular lens power is the axial length. If it is more, we will require less powerful intraocular lens. The next important consideration is keratometry. Uh, Power changes with the keratometry. Third important factor is effective lens position. So where in the capsular bag the intraocular lens will be there. The normal lens is 4-5 millimeter thick, while this artificial intraocular lens is 1-2 millimeter thick. So if it stays in the anterior part of capsular bag or the posterior part of the capsular bag, refraction will change. So we have to address these factors before implanting the intraocular lens. Then there is surgically induced astigmatism, SAI. So we have to add that also in the recent formulas. Finally, we want to place the incision at the steepest axis so that astigmatism is reduced post-operatively. See, you have mentioned multifocal, but the other technique is if you implant intraocular lens in one eye, so that make it e-metro for distance and use the other eye for near fixation. This is called mono. So this is a good alternative, and the people I am having monovision. In my one eye there is slight myopia, and I am comfortable reading with that. And in the other eye, the far vision is good 6 by 6. So I most of the time I do not wear glasses because I have monovision. But in driving, I do wear the glasses. So this is one option. Now, the latest development are because the surgery is becoming safe, so many people are also sort of going for refractive lens exchange, which is the removal of the clear lens. Previously, it was known as clear lens extraction. After 45 or 50 years of age, when the most of the accommodation is gone, presbyopia is a big problem. Patient have to wear glasses and remove it for distant vision. So now in many lakhs, these operations have been done where you remove the crystalline lens, which is normal, transparent. You implant a multifocal lens so that the patient does not. A patient came to me from England. She said that my friend had this intraocular lens from Turkey, but I am Pakistani, so I have come here. He was about 45 years of age. So I said, okay, we can do it, but these are the hazards of or complications of surgery. And after listening to those complications, she said, no, I will be better off. But this is, as the operation is becoming safe, now this option is also coming up. Then there are highly myopic eyes. Many a times patients say that we want to get rid of the glasses. So we, after 45 years, we prefer, because the accommodation is gone, we can do this intraocular lens implant, multifocal implant.
जी गोइंग टू बायोमेट्रिक डिपार्टमेंट, अब तो गए होंगे, कैसे करते हो आप ये? कोई अपना देखा है, किया भी है आप लोग, खैर वहाँ पे करते रहे, लेकिन यहाँ पे आके दोबारा प्रैक्टिस का मौका नहीं मिला, खुद से करें बायोमेट्रिक। अच्छा, अब कैसे ही सेट के लिए आपको जो एक्सीलेंट मेजर करनी है, दैट हैज टू बी लॉन्गर विजुअल एक्सेस। सो हाउ कैन यू कंफर्म कि आप विजुअल एक्सेस, या हाउ कैन यू एश्योर कि आप विजुअल एक्सेस के अलाउंग बायोमेट्रिक? ठीक है, आप यू सी कि उसके जो प्रोब है, प्रोब के अंदर एक रेड कलर का लाइट है, ठीक है। तो आस्क द पेशेंट लुक इनटू दैट लाइट, उससे उसकी अलाइनमेंट जो है फोबिया की वो स्ट्रेट हो जाएगी, और यू कैन उस पर जो एक्सीलेंट होगी दैट विल बी।
सर जो मोनो विजन कर रहा है तो उसके लिए क्या असूल क्या है, रूल क्या है? मोनो विजन एक आई में माइनस नंबर डालना, थोड़ा कम नंबर डालना, उसका रूल क्या है? अपने कंसिडर क्या करना है? डोमिनेंट आई कैसे चेक करना है? नियर लेंस जो है वो किस में डालना है? नॉर्मली अगर आप किस में डोमिनेंट आई चेक करें, आपकी अपनी डोमिनेंट आई चेक करके बताएं कैसे करते हैं?
आपकी कौन
सी डोमिनेंट है? आप बताएं।
वही लाइट है वैसे
अभी देखिए हमें करके बताएंगे, किसी एक टारगेट को ले
लोगों को तो पता होना चाहिए कैसे देखें।
तो पहले दो साइड से टारगेट को देखेंगे, उसके बाद फिर हम अपनी एक साइड के बंद करके देखेंगे कि किस में से वो नजर आ रहा है, कि वो एक में वो सर्कल के अंदर से नजर आएगा, एक में सर्कल से बाहर से नजर आएगा।
जो डिसेंटेड होगा वो नॉन डोमिनेंट। नियर लेंस का फिर नॉन डोमिनेंट आई होगा, डोमिनेंट आई का फॉर विजन के लिए एंगल क्या था, कैसे चेक करते हैं इसका पार्ट ऐसा चेक कर रहा है
होता है एंगल का
होता है
सर विजुअल एक्सिस और ऑप्टिकल एक्सिस। तो ऑप्टिकल एक्सिस क्या होगा?
एंटीरियर पोस्टीरियर थिंग जो मेजरिंग लाइन ज्वाइन कर रही है पासिंग परपेंडिकुलर टू द सेंटर ऑफ द कॉर्निया।
और विजुअल एक्सिस
विजुअल एक्सिस
हम टॉर्च से मारते हैं राइट, वो कौन सी जगह पर है?
सर अगर पेशेंट डायरेक्टली टॉर्च को देख रहा है तो वो विजुअल एक्सिस,
ठीक है। और सेंटर ऑफ द कॉर्निया जो है वो
और फिर कितनी डिग्री से फर्क होता है ऑप्टिकल एक्सिस? व्हाट इज द एंगल, क्या है
दूसरे एंगल का बड़ा हो गया,
अभी छोटा हो गया, बड़ा हो गया, सूडो एंगल हो गया, सूडो इज हो गया।
बड़े बच्चे